Welcome to another episode of Islands in the League, our exclusive YouTube video series presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. In today's episode, I will be taking a close look at NBA dynasties and why all good things must come to an end. Plus, we'll be debuting a new segment called Hoops Tank, which is a parody of a long-standing popular television show. And as always, we'll be joined by Josh Appelbaum from VSiN, our resident sports betting expert. This is Islands in the League presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's go. I want to take a look at NBA dynasties. Now, your definition and my definition of a sports dynasty, it can be subjective. For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to use this. In essence, a dynasty is a team or individual that dominates their sport or league for an extended length of time. So I'm looking for a sustained period of success. I'm talking multiple championships and multiple finals appearances. Now, in the early NBA, there were two dynasties. The early 1950s Lakers, which won 4 championships in 5 seasons, and of course, the Boston Celtics, who won 11 championships in 13 seasons, including 9 in a row. It's important to put in context some of the why. Of course, they had Bill Russell, one of the all-time great players. Of course, they had Bob Cousy, one of the all-time great point guards. But this was a period of time where free agency did not exist. In 1970, Oscar Robertson sued the NBA. That case was not resolved till 1976. And even then, free agency as we know it was not the same as it was from 1976 to 1988. During this period of time, your incumbent team had right of first refusal, and they were compensated if you left. It wasn't until 1988 that unrestricted free agency was enacted. And even then, you had to have 7 years of service and had to have finished 2 contracts to be truly an unrestricted free agent. The 1970s saw a rapid period of expansion in the NBA. There were a bunch of teams added. Of course, the ABA-NBA merger in 1976. So for the purposes of this exercise, we are going to be looking at what I always call the modern NBA, which starts in the 1979-1980 season. At this time, there are 22 teams, and Magic and Larry are drafted. This is their rookie season. This is the start of the modern NBA. All right, I'm going to be honest with you guys. The impetus for this entire episode was a tweet. It was from our friend Nate Jones. He said, "I see Golden State Warriors fans losing their minds. Y'all realize you beat the odds? The team's core has been together for 12 seasons. Even squeezing that last title out was way against the odds given Klay's back-to-back injuries. Ain't nothing you can do about it, and you shouldn't be mad or blaming." Now, the Warriors are struggling right now. As of this recording, they're 18-22. They don't look like a contender. And I'm not saying their dynasty is over. I'm not saying that at all. But if we take a look at the 8 dynasties in the modern NBA, well, like Jeffrey Chaucer said, all good things must come to an end. You nailed that. I nailed that. All right, let's run through what I would call the 8 dynasties in the modern NBA. The Celtics in the 1980s, they won 3 championships in 6 seasons. They had 5 finals appearances in the 1980s. The Lakers, 5 titles in the 1980s, but they also had 9 finals appearances in 12 seasons between 1980 and 1991. The Pistons, of course, back-to-back champions, 2 titles in 3 seasons, 3 straight finals appearances. The Bulls, 6 titles in 8 seasons in the 1990s. Starting in 1999, the San Antonio Spurs, 5 titles in 16 seasons, 6 finals appearances. The Lakers, of course, with Kobe and Shaq, started a run where they had 5 titles in 11 seasons and 7 finals appearances. And the Miami Heat, of course, 4 straight finals appearances in the 2010s, 2 championships. And then, of course, there's the Golden State Warriors. 4 titles in 8 seasons, 6 finals appearances. That's it. Those 8 runs. That's all we have in the modern NBA. Congrats to the Warriors fans. You are fans of what we call a legacy franchise. Now, again, in the 1970s, rapid expansion, the ABA-NBA merger, Boston Celtics, they won 2 championships, 2 finals appearances. The New York Knicks, in the span of 4 seasons, had 3 finals appearances and won 2 championships. But I'm really stretching it there if we're going to call those 2 teams dynasties in the 1970s. And we don't know how this will end. We don't. I would never bet against Steph Curry. Maybe Klay Thompson and Draymond Green can muster up something, dig deep, and the Warriors can make a run this season or beyond. I'm not doubting that's possible at all. But again, all good things must come to an end. And if we look at the history of these 7 other modern NBA dynasties, it's clear that it's very difficult to do this for a long period of time. All right, let's get back to Chaucer. The Boston Celtics, their dynasty in the 1980s. They lost in the 1987 finals. It would be 21 seasons before their next finals appearance and championship in 2008. Guess what? This is now the 16th season since their last championship and only 2 finals appearances since 2008. That Lakers dynasty in the 1980s, they won in 1988. They had a finals appearance in 89 and 91, but it would be 12 seasons before their next championship in 2000. And then that run with Kobe and Shaq and Kobe and Powell and Phil Jackson. Again, we went 9 seasons between a finals appearance and an NBA championship when LeBron and AD led them to the title in the bubble in 2020. That mini dynasty of the Detroit Pistons in the late 80s and 1990, 3 straight finals appearances, back-to-back championships in 89 and 90, be 14 seasons between finals appearances. They won the championship in 2004. They haven't won since. They've only been back once. The Bulls in the 1990s, probably the saddest end to a dynasty. We've all seen The Last Dance. This has been well documented. 6 championships in 8 seasons in the 1990s. The Bulls have not been back to the NBA Finals since 1998 and only have 1 conference finals appearance in 24 seasons. The Spurs dynasty is one of the most interesting things. Their first championship was in 1999. Their last championship was in 2014. 5 NBA championships in 16 seasons, 6 finals appearances. This is now the 10th season since their last finals appearance and championship. They've only been to the Western Conference Finals once, and I hate to say it, this team is not close to getting back. After 4 straight finals in the early 2010s, the Heat have been back twice to the NBA Finals in the last 9 seasons, but no championships. So what does this mean for the Warriors? What does it mean? In my estimation, we should celebrate what they've done. And if I'm a Warriors fan and you're used to winning, I get the frustration. I get watching this team doesn't feel like the 2015 or 2016 Warriors. It doesn't feel like the Warriors when they had the big 3 and Kevin Durant. It certainly doesn't feel like the 2022 squad when you had a guy like Andrew Wiggins playing the best basketball of his career and helping lead them to their 4th championship in 8 seasons. The reality is it's hard in the NBA to have these sustained runs. It's hard because players age, team dynamics change, people leave in free agency, coaches leave, teams don't find cheap labor in the draft. My real question, and I mean this, and this is not a take, this is just a question. Is this potentially the last version of an NBA dynasty? Whether it ends this season or in 2 or 3 seasons, is the Golden State Warriors run? Is this the last run we will see? And you ask why? Well, the reality is free agency's dead. Free agency really doesn't exist anymore for the top players. Teams aren't getting a Kevin Durant in free agency. These guys are signing these massive extensions. On top of that, the new rules around the second apron of the luxury tax will make contending teams very restricted in the type of moves they can make to add to their roster. We've talked about this at length. The Phoenix Suns are a great example of this. They've bet the house on the big 3 of Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. There's not a lot of optionality they have going forward. Even the Denver Nuggets, they're going to be faced with some difficult decisions to make in the coming years, as they will be up against that second apron for sure. They have 3 max players on their roster right now, which brings me to the point I always like to make. And that point is, you've got to build your team through the draft. And that will become more and more apparent over the next 5 to 7 seasons. It remains to be seen if some of these gambles for trading for players, i.e. Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal in Phoenix. But I do know this. In most cases, with all 8 of these modern NBA dynasties, most of the core group, if not all in some cases, were drafted by the team that ended up having a modern NBA dynasty.
Welcome to Hoops Tank, where our sharks hear your pitches on how to improve the NBA. But first, let's meet the shark. JJ Redick is a 15-year NBA veteran turned professional podcaster.
I wanted the lobster. You gave me the crab.
He's never invested in anything other than his strong love of Derek White. This is Hoops Tank.
Adam Eric Not TV 2 says, adopt hockey-style subbing where players can come in and out during live game action. Interesting pitch. Very interesting. I'm imagining live ball turnovers. I'm imagining players running into each other. I'm imagining a mass level of confusion. Adam, this is a terrible idea. And for that reason, I'm out. AB Hoop Roundup says, expand the charge circle and don't allow charges under airborne players. Clarify criteria for technical fouls. Show substitutions on the broadcast. Bring back All-Star Draft, but have it 2 weeks before, and don't separate starters and reserves, or have All-Star winner get home court in finals. Wow. A lot of products you just pitched there, AB Hoop Roundup. But that first product, that's your hero item. One thing to note, it is dangerous for players to try and draw a charge on an airborne player. I recognize that. I think it's an easy fix. I think what you suggested and what you pitched here is the answer. Expand the restricted area. Make it 5 feet. I mean, how many players in the half court are taking off just inside the foul line? It would eliminate a lot of these freaky plays that we saw, particularly last year in the playoffs where Giannis gets hurt. The idea, AB Hoop Roundup and all you people that send in these pitches around airborne players and not being able to take charges on them, you are also the people that are complaining about the defensive rules. Are you trying to completely handicap the defense? Yes, we should be able to take charges. If you are in a spot and an offensive player runs over you, it should be a charge. You can't have it both ways. You can't say we got to eliminate the charge and there's no defense and there's no defensive rules. The charge is there to protect the defense. Now, if we expand the restricted area, we also protect the offensive player from any potential injury. I like this pitch, and I'd like to buy a 25% stake in it at $500K. The Phoenix Suns 2 outdoor regular season games. Wind, rain, snow, ice, desert heat. Like, what are we talking about here? We always talk about buy-in from players. It's not happening. Anybody that grew up playing outdoor basketball knows you are one wind gust away from the most memeable, gifable moment of your NBA career. No chance this is happening. For that reason, I'm out. Jigga41 Agger writes, oh, wait a minute. That's Jason Gallagher. Jason Gallagher writes, Player of the Week and Player of the Month awards should count towards end of season awards. Player of the Week is 0.25 votes and Player of the Month is 0.5 votes. Something like that. Not a particularly well-articulated pitch, Jason. I do like the idea of the Player of the Week and the Player of the Month awards actually meaning something when it gets to the end of the regular season. I like the idea, actually, of them counting maybe towards All-NBA, or in the case of Rookie of the Year. If you win 4 months of Rookie of the Month, you're pretty much guaranteed to win Rookie of the Year. I like this pitch. I do. The math seems a little wonky. It seems like you're very much in the infancy of this pitch. I'm willing to give you $500 for 10% of the company at a $5,000 valuation, but that's all I'm willing to risk on this. Basketball News writes in, abolish the rim hanging text. Couldn't agree more. 100%. I'm all in. Not a particularly impactful rule change. I will be honest with you. This probably only happens once every 2 or 3 weeks. So for that reason, I'm only willing to give you $20. Palmer Designs writes, get rid of dribbling. The artistry of Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry, I get movement and I get passing and all of that. Let the best players be artists. I'm out. Vato NBA. Should the NBA create a best role player of the year award? It's a great question. Not sure what the pitch is here because, again, it was your pitch to me. Every player in the NBA is a role player. The roles are just different. In every single sport outside of basketball, there's no role players. You're a pitcher, you're a second baseman, you're a tight end, you're an offensive lineman, you're a halfback, you're a fullback, you're a midfielder, you're a defender, you're a goalie. Everything is so specialized in nearly every other sport. Basketball is the one sport where we talk about role players, but everybody has a role. But I know what you're getting at here. I would like to take a 51% stake in this pitch. I will pay you $25,000. In exchange for 51% of the company, I would like creative control. And for the rest of time, I would like to call this award the Derek White Award. Beyond B pitches in overtime, instead of fouling out at 6 fouls, it goes up to 7. So if you have 5 fouls going into overtime, you don't have to worry about fouling out at the next foul. I can get behind this. I don't think this is a revolutionary pitch. This seems very logical to me. I think the valuation on this is particularly high. I'd be willing to give you $30,000 at a 30% stake. The real Aaron. Remove defensive 3 seconds rule. Big guys should be able to stay in the paint and protect the basket. As Luka said, scoring in the EuroLeague is harder than the NBA, and this is one of the reasons the best players in the world should have to deal with it. I am a fan of this pitch. I would take it a step further. We need to make all the rules around basketball universal. We need to have the same rules around the gather step. We need to have the same rules around defensive 3 seconds, the size of the paint, the three-point line, at all levels. The reason there's defensive 3 seconds is because prior to that, there was illegal defense. And the reason there was illegal defense is because the spacing sucked. Now that we have spacing, now that we have shooting at nearly every position, I agree with you. I don't think we need the defensive 3-second rule. I think they should eliminate that. I'm 100% on board with this pitch. $450,000. And the reason is, this would be a rule that favors the defense. James 82. Instead of the NBA draft lottery, teams not in the playoffs compete in a reverse gauntlet tournament to decide the draft order. 14 versus 13. Winner plays 12. Winner of that plays 11, etc. Logistical nightmare, but I like the idea of creating a competition around the top picks in the draft. This actually would be an interesting way to help out the teams in the middle. Of course, the bad teams would continue to be bad because they likely wouldn't win these games, and they would get stuck with 2, 3, 4, etc. I like this a lot. This is still in its infancy. I like creating competition around the number 1 seed. I'm willing to give you $1,600 at a 10% stake. Co D Hunt or CO D Hunt. Shots from beyond half court only count as a field goal attempt if they go in, kind of like shots when the player's fouled. I'm tired of players purposely releasing shots after the quarter buzzers to save their field goal percentage. You know who else is tired of players releasing shots after the buzzer to save their field goal percentage? Chris Paul. Really like this idea. I think this should have been adopted years ago. Incentivize players to chuck it. First of all, if it goes in, fans love it. The team needs it. I'm buying this pitch. I like this pitch. 50% stake. We want to be partners with you on this. $72,000, $144,000 valuation. Red Mag 77. Have a whole Euro week when basically all the NBA moves to Europe to play games, 15 cities, 15 games at the same time. They can do the same with other continents too. I like this pitch. I like this product. We should be thinking about ways. I mean, logistically, I'm talking myself out of it now. We've just added the in-season tournament. How are we going to take the entire NBA overseas for 15 games? And then we're going to, let's say we did it in Europe and it was a success. All right, well, let's say you want to go to Africa. All right, that's like an extra 10 hours of flight time. Let's say you want to go to Asia. That's another 5 or 6 hours of flight time. Do you want the NBA season to be year-round? For that reason, I'm out. Ben 10 MVP says, 4 words, JJ, naked wrestling at halftime. Maybe teams can have their own wrestlers and their own wrestling seating and finals, etc. For instance, I could be the Nets wrestler just to start off the new change. I have no experience or interest in wrestling, but I believe. Males only. This was a bad idea. Thanks for all your hoop pitches. Until next time, it's this guy, JJ Redick, signing off. I'm out. All right, let's welcome in Josh Appelbaum from Veasan. Josh, always good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great, JJ. We got to talk about this MVP in a second here, but I got to get your take on here because it looks like it's Embiid, but there's a fine print rule in play that may complicate this bet a bit.
You know what's really interesting, Josh? Richard yesterday in our coaches meeting asked both Nick Nurse and Michael Malone about this new rule and if it would affect their strategy, especially late in the season. And look, both of them had differing opinions. We've already seen this to an extent have an effect on a player, I think, coming back too soon from injury, and that was Tyrese Halliburton. Because, again, he's trying to get to that 65-game limit so he can make All-NBA and get that Supermax, which I think is roughly $53 million more over the course of 5 years. So this new rule has a lot of implications. Where do we stand right now in terms of the MVP odds?
Yeah, so JJ, Joel Embiid is the favorite right now. Now, he is plus 200. You have Jokic right behind him at plus 210. Then you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plus 350, and then Luka is in 4th place at plus 400 right now. So looking at the numbers, just going off the numbers, Embiid, deservedly so, is the favorite, averaging 36 points a game, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. He's shooting 54% from the field. And if you look at the player efficiency rating from ESPN Hollinger, if you really want to get into the data, I mean, he's really by far and away your number one player rated efficiency at 35.27. The next closest guy is Jokic at 32.12. So, Embiid scored 70 the other day. When he plays, he's incredible. But this little elephant in the room with this new rule change that we've alluded to, you got to play 65 games to win the MVP and play 65 games for all these other awards. So this is what really complicates the betting market. Now, if we look at kind of where Embiid stands and how many games he has to play to win this award, JJ, he has played in 33 of 44 games. So he's missed 11 games. Now, there's 38 games left. That means he can only miss 6 more games to win this award. So my question to you is, how do the Sixers handle Embiid? He's already won his MVP. How meaningful is it to them? I think if you ask the coaches, they want to win an NBA title. They would love it if a byproduct was Embiid winning the MVP as well. But how will he be handled? Obviously, he's had injuries in the past. Do we bet on Embiid and just pray that, cross our fingers that he'll play the requisite amount of games to win this award? Or, JJ, do we maybe bet against Embiid, as great as he is, knowing that he may not hit this limit here? So is Jokic the play, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka? By the way, JJ, do you like the rule, and how would you handle this MVP market?
I like the intent of the rule. We certainly had a lot of backlash, both from fans, broadcast partners, me and the media, about players missing games. So I like that they've instituted the rule. I like that they've incentivized players to play in games in order to be eligible for max extensions, all NBA, end of season awards, MVP, etc. As it relates to Joel Embiid, and again, this is knowing him, but not coming directly from him. My feeling on this is that Joel Embiid wants to win an NBA championship. And, we're going to watch over the next couple of weeks whether or not Philly makes a move at the trade deadline to bring in another ancillary piece. But I don't think the MVP is that important to him at this point, right? He's already won one. He's been runner-up twice. The one thing missing from Joel Embiid's resume is an NBA championship. So I think the team and Joel, they're going to manage that. Whether he ends up playing the requisite 65 games remains to be seen. But I don't love the bet. And let's be clear, Joel Embiid has been my MVP so far this season. So if you're looking at the other two guys, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I feel, as it stands right now, that Shai really has a lot of momentum, given that the fact OKC is number one in the Western Conference. And I remember talking about them a ton preseason, having a lot of expectations, and there was conversations about their ceiling potentially being the 4th seed and getting home court in the first round. They're the number 1 seed, tied for the number 1 seed. I know they lost to Detroit today. But they're the tied for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. I think Shea has a lot of momentum. My only concern with Jokic, because again, putting up MVP numbers, you brought up player efficiency rating. You look at a lot of the advanced stats, box plus minus, win shares, all that stuff. Jokic is number 1 in the NBA this year. My concern with them is Denver at times this season has felt like a defending champion. They have oscillated between championship level effort and middling effort. And my concern is they're not going to be high enough in the standings to really warrant another MVP season. Whereas if OKC and Shea continue to keep this up, he's got a decent chance. You bring up Luka having an MVP-like season. I don't know that Dallas will get there in the standings for him to get enough votes. So that's my concern with Luka. Luka should be in the MVP conversation. I feel like he is in the MVP conversation, but to me, he's sort of the 4th guy right now in that conversation.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, JJ. And I think, just talking about the NBA awards, one thing I love is, we get to talk, about once a month, and so many things change between then and now. Like, for example, you and I were talking about the most improved player this year, Tyrese Maxey. And after we did the pod, I hit him at plus 100, even money. He's now at minus 240. And then if you also look at some other awards at play here, Coach of the Year, obviously the clutch player of the year, 6th man, Tim Hardaway is still kind of in the lead there. But in particular, rookie of the year, JJ, I don't know if you have a quick thought on this one, but we've gone back and forth. Wemby was your favorite going in, and then it flipped at one point to Chet Holmgren being a favorite. Well, now it's flipped back to Wemby. I think he's around minus 150 or so. He's really turned it on, had a great month of January. What do you think? Are we going to flip back again, or do we see Wemby kind of take it from here on out?
No, I'll be honest with you. Steve Jones, Nekias Duncan from the Dunker Spot, we all caught a lot of backlash from San Antonio Spurs Twitter about our pick at the time. And again, this is the thing. We are explicitly stating at the time. At this time, I gave a slight edge to Joel Embiid for MVP. At the time we recorded a few weeks ago, I gave the slight edge to Chet. Wemby's play, particularly over the last 6 weeks since he moved to center full time, has been spectacular. And we can recognize that San Antonio as a team is pretty much a mess. We can recognize the pieces around him aren't going to necessarily lead to a play-in or playoff spot. But what he's doing is remarkable. Right now, I feel like this is neck and neck. And what did you say the odds were right now?
Yeah, it's flipped. So no guy has gone above minus 200. So that's kind of the breaking point. I think odds makers are just protecting themselves. They don't want to basically give the dog too much of a plus money number. So the weird thing is, JJ, so I think right now, Wemby, I want to say minus 150 to minus 175 in that area. But the weird thing is you can kind of arbitrage it. So you could basically have both players at plus money so that kind of no matter what happens, you turn a profit. But again, really big move here toward Wemby based upon his play really this month.
Yeah. And I would say as of today, they're neck and neck. They're tied to me. And that's why the beautiful thing about the NBA is we probably have, those teams have 38 to 36 more games. So a lot of NBA basketball to be played. Last thing I want to get to you is the odds on the Lakers right now. Big win last night against the Golden State Warriors. LeBron with another all-time performance. Steph, of course, just those two, the value they bring to the NBA. Where do they stand in terms of making the playoffs?
Yeah, this one's really interesting, JJ. So to prep for, talking to you about betting markets, I try to look at like the markets that are kind of not just right in front of you, but kind of go down the DraftKings options and find something that's kind of interesting to me. So the interesting thing here with the Lakers is that there's a prop. Will they make the playoffs? Now it's minus 110 both sides. So that's basically a coin flip. There's no plus money either side, and it's basically right down the middle. Now, there is some fine print with this one as well. And I think you got to know this as a bettor. It's not just to make the playoffs to get in, but you have to be in the top 6. So they can't just make the play in. They have to be in that top 6. So currently after, big win against Steph Curry and the Warriors, they're now 24-23. They're in the 9th spot right now. So my question to you, JJ, is Are the Lakers the kind of team that they don't really care whether they're 6 or 9? And kind of it's just, hey, let's be healthy. Let's get into the tournament. We're going to bank on our talent. I mean, they've already won the in-season tournament. They've kind of fallen off quite a bit since that point. They're turning it around a little bit now. But how would you think, if you were betting this prop, how would you approach it? Would you lean one way or the other? I think odds makers don't know how to handle it. They're telling you that based upon this minus 110 both sides. So are they a team that just wants to get in and doesn't care? They'll do play and doesn't matter. Their talent will take over. Or do you think they'll really fight to get in the postseason, the official postseason? That way they can maybe get some rest before it really starts.
Well, as it stands right now, they're in 9th. They're 4 games back in the loss column of the 6th place team, the Phoenix Suns, who lost last night but are 12-4 in their last 16. We've finally seen a little bit of a longer stretch with the big 3. When those guys are on the court, they're eviscerating opponents. So I'm fairly confident. No, I'm very confident. The top 4 teams right now in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the LA Clippers, and the Denver Nuggets, those 4 teams I feel like are going to be in the top 6, guaranteed playoff spots. So then you have to look at the Sacramento Kings, the Phoenix Suns, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Dallas Mavericks. Those are the 4 teams ahead of the Los Angeles Lakers right now. And I wonder, given the up and down consistency of the Lakers shooting, the fact that LeBron James just turned 39 years old in year 21, like how much are they going to have at the finish? Now, obviously, to me, if you're making this bet as a yes, that they're going to be in the top 6, you're banking on the fact that they are going to make a trade. And I mean that. I don't think that this team, as it's constructed, I'm not comfortable making that bet that they're a top 6 team. So to me, I'm more comfortable making the no bet. But if you make the yes bet, to me, you're banking on the fact that they're going out and getting DeJounte Murray, right? That's been the rumor for the last week. Does that get them ahead of the Kings and the Suns and the Pelicans, the Mavericks? That remains to be seen. But as it's currently constructed, this roster, I don't think they are better than the Dallas Mavericks, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Phoenix Suns, or the Sacramento Kings.
I'm with you, JJ, and this will be one definitely to monitor over the next few weeks here. Does it flip one way or the other? I know there's some JJ Redick steam after we do a pod, so maybe after this we'll see the no move to minus 150.
I love the fact that I can move odds. I love it. Josh, always good to catch up, man.
Thanks so much.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This has been another episode of Islands in the League, our exclusive YouTube video series presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Thanks for watching. As always, we'll be back next month.